and I can't help but just keep innovating and talking and getting excited about ideas. And we realise we're a minute late. But thank you for joining us today. I can't believe, Dean, it's number 44. We'll keep on going. Thank you to those who are online and listening, and thank you to those who are listening to this later through one of our podcast options that are available to you. Anyway, Dean, welcome.
Thanks,
Great
Craig.
to
Great to be here. We were so excited, as you said, 1 or 2 minutes late, but we're ready to jump straight in today. So let's get stuck into it.
Let's do it. So today, I was inspired of our topic today from Dean's post this morning. The first thing I did this morning, thank goodness, was check LinkedIn and not my emails, because I saw this post from Dean about emails shouldn't be the first thing that you look at. And so then it got me thinking, what can we do for Uncommon Sense today? I thought, let's talk about breaking bad habits. And we've got 3 things to talk about, but we're going to kick off with Dean's post this morning, which was emails shouldn't be the first thing that you read. So, Dean, why don't you take us through your thinking behind that to get us going?
Look, it was a little bit of a rant, I suppose, and it's good we can chat about it in that way. Because I think first and foremost, the email as itself, and I talk about this in a couple of different ways, it's not a workflow management tool. So email is not the thing that is the most important thing for you to do today. It's just a list of essentially other people putting other people's priorities on your screen. So the email is everyone else's things that they want you to do over the next course of the days, weeks, and months. And so it's actually the reverse of a to-do list, because it's everyone else's to-do list. And I think the first thing about emails in terms of that breaking the bad habit is to not look at your emails the first thing in the day. Typically, Craig, like everyone is different. Typically, we're really productive in the morning, right? We've had a good night's sleep. We've had 1 or 2 cups of coffee. We've got to work however we need to get to work, whether that's at the home or physical office, but we're pretty productive in the day, at the start of the day. And so the issue with the email is sometimes we waste our most productive hours doing an activity that is the least productive, which is managing and replying to emails. And so I think my message this morning was more about making sure that people are prioritizing their day by not getting themselves sucked into emails as the first thing that they do in their day.
Yeah. And mate, look, we're open here on Uncommon Sense. That is a bad habit of mine. Like, it is the thing I've done literally every day until this morning, where for some reason I went to LinkedIn first and then saw your post and went, right, I'm not going to do that. But then it got me reflecting on what happens to you if you do that. Anything could be in that inbox, right? It's unexpected. You can't plan what's going to lob in there. And it made me start thinking of the times when I've looked in my inbox and seen some bad news or something that's not particularly made me feel good. And I thought, wow, how that sets you up for the rest of your day, because then you carry that burden straight away. And you might not be able to fix it straight away, and you might have other stuff to do, but you carry that burden through those other things that you need to do. And if you hadn't seen that yet, you wouldn't be in that headspace.
Absolutely. You're entirely right. So that's the whole thing of someone else's agenda getting pushed onto you, negative or positive. It's still gonna impact you, and obviously the negative is going to impact you a little bit more. And the other thing, Craig, that I find, if you can reflect on how you use your email, and for our listener as well, how they reflect the email, is how many times do you read the one email before you actually do something with it? So someone posted on my LinkedIn today that they read the first thing or time of the day they're reading their emails is at 7 a.m. And so just go with me in terms of sometimes you read an email 3 times. So if you had read your emails this morning, maybe you read something and go, oh, that's important, I need to respond to that. So you read it and go, I need to respond. But you don't respond right now because you got other emails in your inbox. Then a second time comes around and you read the same email again and go, oh, that's really urgent, I need to do it this afternoon. And then the third time you read the email is when you're actually replying to it. And so the other message of not around this, not doing your emails first thing in the morning, is don't read the same email 3 times, because that's almost worse. If
Yeah.
you're going to read an email, reply, you have to action it at that point in time. You can't possibly read it a second or third time. And I think sometimes this is the, let's call this the on the bus reading of your email, for example, is that people might read their emails on the bus to like fill their mind with all the stuff that's going on, but reply to none of them because they need to attach something or they need a bit more time to respond. And so I think you find that you've read your emails twice over, both in order to read it and then reply to it.
So, controversially, Dean, it actually makes you think, should I even have my emails on my phone? Because I can't do half the things on my phone, like attach documents, read the document clearly, properly, and all of that type of thing. So you're right. I sit there and fill my head with it and do nothing with them, and they just become actions later. So maybe, in this world of where technology is moving forward, maybe we need to take this one back a bit and actually just not have emails on the phone.
Absolutely. It's you could do much better work at that point in time. If you're commuting to work, checking your emails is probably not the best activity to be doing because you can't do it properly anyway. And listening to a podcast such as UncommonCents, for example, would be a better use of your time on the bus in the morning, or preparing and understanding what you need to achieve for the day in relation to those top 5 activities. Or another one of my clients does 3 before lunchtime. What are the three most important activities to get done before lunchtime? So that's our rant, Kamanis, on emails.
All right, let me take you to the next one, and I'm going to throw a few words at you so we can, because I think there's a collective of words for this bad habit. But multitasking, being inefficient, procrastinating, and waiting to work on hard tasks seem to be a bad habit that a number of us manage to carry one way or the other.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's, I think the multitasking one is one that people, we constantly talk about. And the reality is that the human brain cannot multitask. And so what happens when we actually multitask, and if you Google it and look at the science, is that your brain is switching between 2 tasks really quickly. So even if you think you're the best multitasker, what's happening with your brain is actually you're just doing task 1 and task 2 separately. Your brain is just switching, which is obviously inefficient. So I think the main thing around this multitasking, Craig, when we think about it in doing knowledge work, if we just acknowledge that we're all knowledge workers in this category, what we want to do is avoid multitasking first and foremost. And how we do that is actually avoid the distraction of other work taking over the work that we're currently doing. Okay.
Yeah.
And this goes to, which we'll talk as we go through this, the Pomodoro technique of how we might do work. But what I'm firstly wanting us to think about is building our focus muscle, which is all about just doing one task for an agreed amount of time without being distracted with other work. Okay. Yep. So if I'm asking you, Craig, to write me an email, which is going to take you 20 minutes to do because you need to think about it, et cetera, et cetera. Some people who are multitasking might find that it takes them an hour to do that 20-minute email. Okay. Yep. And the reason why it ends up taking an hour is because people go on a journey of other tasks in amongst that doing of that 20-minute task. So if I'm you writing that email, Craig, and then the phone rings, 10-minute distraction. Maybe it was important, maybe it wasn't. Then I'm back on doing that particular email, so I'm in it, and then I get a pop-up message from Teams. So I go and answer the Teams message. But when I answer the Teams message, then I find that there's 2 or 3 other messages in there. So I spend 10 minutes in Teams responding all to the message. Then I come back to that particular email. I get back into the detail. I work on it again. And so that is people's real experience of work, which they will say that they're multitasking.
Yeah.
But there's some of that is that they're getting distractions because it's taking an hour to complete that one task, which was the email we've been talking about. And the science behind this, although I won't necessarily quote the exact minutes, but it takes multiple minutes to get back into the focus of that email when you have been distracted from it.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking 2 or 3 minutes. Some of the data are saying that it can take 20 minutes to get back focused again after being distracted. And the chances are you're actually going to be distracted again whilst you're trying to get refocused on that work that you want to do. And so I think while we talk about multitasking, our objective should be the exact opposite of how can I just do one task at a time and finish it and move on to the next one.
Yeah, and it's funny, Dean, like with all of these tasks, there's this little feeling you get when you've completed a task, particularly the really hard ones or the ones you've been putting off. This feeling of relief, of lightness, that it's done. I feel so good, right? And it's like, how do I bottle that feeling and remind you of it every single time? Because it feels so good. And then you go, why didn't I just do that?
Yeah, so this is the carrot and the stick of procrastination. So there's in essence there's two ways to motivate anyone and everything in the world, and it's either the carrot or the stick. And we have to create the carrot motivation in everything that we do. So in order to create that feeling, Craig, you know what it feels like to motivate you ahead of time is, to follow the analogy, you got to eat the carrot or taste the carrot before you do the work. So the objective of bottling that feeling is really easy to do because you actually need to train yourself to go, I'm going to do this hard task. And at the end of the hard task, I remember how good that carrot tastes.
Yeah.
And so therefore I'm going to do 25 minutes of work and at the end of this 25 minutes of work, I'm going to feel amazing because I will have done that hard job. And the doing of hard things or the avoiding of the procrastination, everyone wants to procrastinate less. We need to focus not on the task, but how we'll feel at the end of the 25 minutes once we have done the task, training our brains to think forward by 25 minutes to how good we'll feel means that we'll do the hard thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
And everyone loves to, like, we all love the outcome of doing, as you say, the feeling at the end, but we procrastinate around doing the hard thing. And what do we do as a result? Emails.
Yeah, because it feels good because I'm really busy.
Yep.
Just sitting here in my inbox, just churning away at stuff.
Just tapping out emails all day. So the challenge of the just coming back to that, multitasking is all about not being the goldfish. So goldfish are currently beating us in terms of focus work. The goldfish, I think, are 9 seconds. In my presentation I recently did, humans can be as low as 8 seconds before our brain is trying to move us on to the next task. And so building our focus muscle is growing that time frame. And what the Pomodoro technique, Craig, is 25 minutes. Now, this Pomodoro technique was invented.
Isn't a Pomodoro a tomato?
Pomodoro is a tomato. So, and this is the funniest thing about the Pomodoro technique is it was invented well before anything to do with technology. But the Pomodoro technique is simply doing one task for 25 minutes, having a 5-minute break, and doing another task for 25 minutes. And where it came from is you used to have an Italian timer that looked like a tomato, and you'd turn it run for 25 minutes and you'd do that focus work. And so the elements of why this works is it's just training yourself to do 25 minutes of focus work and have a small break and go back in and do another lot of 25 minutes. The 5-minute break is important because it just allows your brain to relax for 5 minutes before going back in. And the interesting thing is that you're just training yourself to do the focus work for up to that 25 minutes. And so what I when I talk to people about this, Craig, is I get everyone to have a post-it note on their desk and to identify when they have got distracted during the 25-minute period. So I might be doing focus work. Let's just use this email as the example. So I'm going to do this focus work. And then what happens is that I get myself distracted. What you've got to do at that point in time is write down the distraction. So I was working on this statement of advice and then something popped into my head and I found myself in my emails. Great. Yeah. So you write down emails. Go back to the statement of advice, start working again. You got distracted. You find yourself looking up, the stock price of CBA or something. Great. I got distracted on the CBA. And so this is like meditating. When you find yourself distracted, you pull yourself back to the core focus. Yep. This is exactly the same in terms of this discipline, is that you're trying to work for 25 minutes on one task, whatever it is. And every time you vary off the path, you write it down and bring yourself back to the particular job that you're looking to do. And so whilst I can say that it sounds easy to work on one thing for 25 minutes, we are hardwired to distract ourselves. And so the goal is just 25 minutes and have a break.
Yeah.
Okay. Do 4 of them in a row with those breaks and you can have a greater break after. I think that if you were able to do 8 to 10 Pomodoros a day, you will get more work done than in any other way of working.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's 250 minutes. So it's like half your day, right? In terms of these Pomodoros. But I think you'll get a volume of work done by doing focus work than you could ever possibly do by doing multitasking work. It will feel like you're doing less, but you're actually finishing more as opposed to half doing lots of things.
Yeah. Yep. All right. We'll throw the Pomodoro challenge down the gauntlet to everyone out there.
So I've got it on you can go to wealthnetwork.net.au/Pomodoro to have a look at the thing. And so it's on my website. You can have a little look of it. From my rant, there's a video there. Obviously, you can Google Pomodoro as well and get as much information on it as well. And Microsoft, so Windows in the clock app actually has a focus timer, which you can set for 25 minutes, Craig. And it works great for 2 reasons, is that it's a countdown timer. So you can see how many times you've done the 25 minutes of focus work throughout the day, which is great. And the second thing it does, which is quite good as well, it turns off all your notifications on your computer when you're using it. So you don't get any Teams pop-ups, you don't get any emails, you don't get any meeting reminders as well, which is a bit of a catch because you might need one of those. So use it carefully. But that is free within Windows, and I think it's a great way of building this focus muscle. Is just use that clock and set the timer and see how long you can do it for.
Perfect. And is that where to find that and stuff in your video, or is that?
Oh, it's on. Yeah, I've got it on the website. But like, open up clock on your computer and it'll be there.
Okay, perfect.
Type in
clock. Like that one. That's good. And
super easy, Greg.
Yep, public service announcement too, to help people through these things we're talking about. If someone has, like free time, no appointments blocked in their diary, don't ask them if they can do an appointment in that time, because they've obviously blocked it. Maybe they're trying to do Pomodoro and all that type of stuff, and so.
Correct, and you've got to do that yourself. I know I read this once, is like on Friday, go into your calendar for next week and block all your free time. So your free time is not free time because we actually work, right? So if you've got all of your meetings for next week should be booked by Friday, and so go into your calendar, fill out the rest of the time, put X's, put do not disturb, put fake meetings in there if you have to, in order to get your time to do your work.
Yep. And the other one is, don't send someone an email going, "Can you call me about this?" Just call them. Just call them.
Just call them. or if you can't call them, you make an appointment, or you give them the email and ask what the decision is. Yes,
Yeah.
that's
Anyway,
that's Kamarnis rant number
another
2.
little rant for you. Just to, throw in
So
there.
what's number 3, Craig?
Number
in
3,
our
mate,
theme?
is, could be controversial, but I don't care. Because there's a whole heap of people out there go, I don't need this. But I think one of the worst habits is not being coachable.
Yes.
And, you know, there's a whole range of things that can lead to, whether it's like stagnation or, you know, missing learning opportunities or advancement or, you know, any of those kind of things. I just get frustrated when people go, oh, you know, I don't need a coach, or I don't need to be coached on that, or, you know, everything's fine.
And it probably goes to the definition, like the if you don't want to be coached, I suppose the attitude that you're doing there is that you don't want to, you're not looking to improve. And the idea of improving one step at a time is that what we all do in terms of being coached or coaching is we can't change you from an average golfer to Tiger Woods overnight, but you've actually got to put in the work over a consistent period of time to improve. And this idea of not being coachable, Craig, or not being open to feedback is this ability to listen to feedback without fighting back on it, because you need to have that ability to listen to something and work out how you can appreciate that feedback without fighting back. What was your quote around this?
The listen to understand,
not to answer. Yes.
Not to answer. Like, so many people just are listening because they know what they want to say next, and they're actually listening for you to stop so they could just say it.
Correct. And so that's where two people are talking at one another as opposed to.
And it's really frustrating when people do.
So fuck off. Sorry, that's the first time we've had a swear jar on Uncommon Sense. But yes, absolutely, Craig. It's very difficult to grow the muscle around listening to the person that's talking, absorb that information, and then responding. And the funny thing about that is that you also need to therefore be comfortable with the silence, because the silence, and this goes to in financial planning meetings, coaching meetings, client meetings, the silence, it doesn't have to be and is not awkward. Silence simply means the other person is now thinking about that information that you've given them, and they need time to think about it before they can respond. So the old sales strategy, Craig, of she or he who talks first loses, there's a bit of element of, whilst it's funny, it's true in that if you've given the person the information on the service and how you're going to work together and the price, that's a lot of information, and you should be quiet until the other person has had time to absorb all of that and respond. And so that goes through that process. It all goes through the ability from a coaching perspective, Craig, to be coachable such that you can take in the feedback, which is the first thing of what we're talking about in terms of being coachable, is take that feedback and absorb it and listen, and then you can respond.
Correct, mate. And on that point, right, like a shout out to our friend Julia Hewitt, who's one of the best sales negotiation trainers I've seen. You know, she has the comment of no one's ever died of deathly silence.
Yeah.
And one of the things I learned from her, which I think is a good tip for anyone, like even running an online webinar, like people get to the end and go, are there any questions? And then they leave it for 3 seconds and they go, oh, no, obviously we answered all the questions. We did a great job. Thanks for coming. See you later. Let that, are there any questions, sit for a bit until it actually gets uncomfortable, because people are trying to process and they're waiting to build a response. And once it's silent for long enough, you'll be 1000% surprised someone will ask a question.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're in just on that theme, like you're in control. So you can think and sit there for as long as you like in terms of the silence. it shouldn't be that awkward. But we've got ourselves slightly distracted, focused on the listening, Craig.
Right.
But coming back to the idea of the breaking bad habits of today is this idea that we want to work out how you can be coachable, because we think it's a third element of building our muscle in terms of great habits for how we can work going forward. And like we also look at sporting people in terms of just helping us with these analogies, Craig. But obviously everyone watches sport and people participate in it. But the highest quality sports people still have multiple coaches. I think there's a basketball player that you would know, Craig, that spends millions of dollars a year on coaches in relation to every part of his life. So obviously he has a basketball coach, and he's got a strength and conditioning coach. Then he has a mindset coach. Then he has a sleep coach. He has a chef, which could be called a food coach. So there's a variety of different people that are helping that particular athlete be a high performer in all categories, because all categories are relevant. And so everyone has the opportunity to be coached if they're open enough to hear some feedback.
Yeah. And I think that's what it's simply about, right? Is, can I be better? Who can help me be better? And am I willing to listen to what they've got to say, even if it means I may have to change something that I think is perfect?
Correct.
which is
and
the big bit.
Change is hard. Like, no coach is probably going to say everything's great, keep doing that, see you later. So there's always going to be change. And I think that the requirement when we move into identifying that we need to change and what are we going to change is acknowledging that it takes a long period of time to change and improve. So this idea that Tiger Woods changed his swing at some point in time, and it took him a year and a half to get back to where he was beforehand in terms of the training that was required to improve the swing the second time. And if you think about it from wanting to improve your habits, like if anyone was just going, from today, I'm not going to check my email until 10 a.m., there's a muscle that needs to be built inside of you to not check your email before 10 a.m. because it's the habit you've done for the last 20 years. And so acknowledge that it's going to take you 6 months before it's a habit that you don't even have to think about it anymore. I had a habit of, in terms of how I wanted to post on LinkedIn every day for 100 days. And it took me, I had a calendar on the wall. I had to physically tick off every single day as I did it until I got to the mid 70s. And then it was actually, it was a habit itself, not to tick off the box, but actually that it became a habit that I remembered to do it throughout the day. And so, but it took 70 business days to get close to that point where it was more of the habit versus the thing that I wanted to do. And so when we want to improve in our business sense over time, is that acknowledging that this will take a period of time to improve if you focus on the one thing. You can't improve 10 things at once, so focus on 1 or 2 things each quarter, but then you've got to actually have a system of measuring that over time.
Yep. And I think a great way to wrap this up, Dean, is just one thing we always talk about too, and that is have an accountability buddy. Tell someone that's what you're doing, so that when you talk to them, they can check in and go, hey, have you stopped reading your emails? Or have you done the Pomodoro? Or are you doing that? And so
Correct.
I know we talk about accountability buddies a lot, but it's just so crucial in when you're going to try and change these habits as well. So,
yeah, absolutely. And it can be anyone. Your accountability buddy can be anyone out there, but it's that person that you tell the truth to as to what you want to achieve, and it's someone that can tap you on the shoulder and check in how you're going. So you can make public declarations of accountability, or you can talk to 1 or 2 people and say that please, these 1 or 2 people hold me accountable to this by talking about it, and they probably want to be held accountable on something in return. And so it's a pretty good swap there as well, Craig.
Perfect. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, that was Uncommon Sense number 44. Thank you for listening. We hope you've enjoyed our episodes this year. We've got a couple to go, I think, 1 or 2. for
one
the remainder.
or two before our Christmas party, Craig.
For our Christmas party, exactly right. So thanks for listening today, everybody, and thanks, Dean, for your insights as always.
Thanks, Craig.
That is a wrap.
And see you next time.